Hello and welcome to an episode of Yes, I Can Living. I am your Yes, I Can coach, Kathy Alessandra, and I am super excited to have you joining us today. If you have not already subscribed to the latest edition of Yes, I Can Living magazine, be sure to hop on over to our website, yesicanliving.com/subscribe, and grab your copy. We have a new issue coming out. It is loaded with all kinds of great tips, tools, resources, and articles. And of course, we've got daily articles posting on the site as well. And we have our weekly podcast, which is why you are here. Today, we have a special guest, Nora Plesent. Nora has been supporting women personally and professionally for over 40 years. I actually met Nora in another business group. We are in the same business coaching group and heard your story and heard what you're doing and then started following you at the gathering. And so, first of all, welcome, Nora. I'm super excited to have you here today.
Thrilled. I love being with other great women.
Right. It always makes for so much fun. You've got quite a history, from lawyer to just, what, I would love if you would just go ahead and share your story with our listeners.
Sure. It is quite a history. I always
Right?
forget how old I'm getting, that it's actually a history now as opposed to just a
It's
story.
funny when we first talked and you're like, well, I was a lawyer and it was for the sex crimes prosecutor. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah,
Because
way
it's
back.
just so, it was just a fascinating story. And another reason to bring you on the show, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, like many women, we sort of reinvent many times in our lives, and I definitely am one who has done that. I went to college at University of Michigan. Actually studied Russian language at that time. Went to law school and started working as a lawyer at the DA's office in Kings County in Brooklyn, and prosecuted sex abuse and child abuse for a number of years. And that really was I felt was my calling. That's what I loved doing, and taking care of victims of sex crimes and child abuse. From there, I went and practiced law at a law firm, doing white collar criminal tax work for a number of years. And in 1992, I had my first son. And at that point, there were very few, if any, organizations where women lawyers, my group, could go and kind of figure out how to make the mothering, lawyering thing work. So I started a group at that time called Lawyers Advocating Alternative Work Solutions, LAWS. And in the old fashioned way of sending out invitations by mail to the women I knew and people on various bar association groups, and inviting them to come to this first meeting. And 110 people out of the 200 people we invited showed up.
Wow.
And we knew, I didn't know anything about marketing odds and all that then, but I did know that we had hit upon something that women really wanted to talk about, and to create sort of a collective, a safe place for people to really talk about how hard it was to balance family and career. And so I created this network. I did a lot of panel events and brought women together, won a number of awards for doing that, and just building a place for women to gather, in essence, and to network. We talk a lot about the old boys network in those days. And so this group that I started, I morphed into what I call the New Girls Network, which was for professionals. At the beginning, it was more for the lawyers, but now we have branched out. But I found that my work as a lawyer, although I loved it, really I felt now called to continue down this path of helping women kind of figure out what they want to do. And so I left my law firm. I started a company with two men, and we place lawyers and paralegals on projects throughout the United States. And it really was the way for me to get into helping women kind of more than just talk about what they want to do, but really creating job opportunities. Most women I was working with didn't want to leave the profession, but they did not want to work 16-hour days, 365 days a year. So I ran this contract legal staffing company with my partners for almost 20 years. And it was fabulous. And we grew rapidly. So I got an enormous amount of background and experience really running a business. And we were quite successful. We are quite successful. But at one point, I hit a point in my life where I think I started to burn out. I had a very bad divorce. I moved across country alone with my children. I have 4 children who I've raised alone. I lost a brother, and sort of a lot of all the stressors of life hit at the same time. And I was trying to do what I had always been taught to do: keep going, as women do, keep going, never, ever, ever give up. And all of the strengths that we have that are also on some level a hidden weakness, because we can collapse. And so I came near that time, and I discovered meditation. I moved to Los Angeles, and my New York friends laugh to this day about when I tell them I meditate, and now I have a business revolving around meditation. But from where I was, a completely neurotic, stressed out lawyer with a lot of control issues and, intensity and all of that, finally, at age 50, finding an actual tool that I could really rely on to create a sense of calm inside of myself. And I became so thrilled that I finally had not the answer, but just a tool that I became certified as a meditation coach. And now I'm certified with a number of places. So I've really delved into this, and I am now really clear that my calling, I've had a few callings, is really to support women in breathing to avoid burnout, to really getting clear that it does, this notion of self-care, which I used to laugh as a luxury kind of narcissistic, comment that people would make. I finally got it. It's not about that. It's really about, filling up our own tank so that we can continue to give to the people, to the, the companies, to the organizations, the communities that we give so much to, without having really any focus on nurturing ourselves. So I work now with women individually, in companies, and in groups to bring calm, clarity, and connection. And before COVID, I was running these day-long retreats in my home for women to have a full day experience of doing yoga, having beautiful lunches, creating, having yoga classes, but getting together with the purpose of taking care of each other, starting with a meditation and spending the day really creating that safe, wonderful environment of women there supporting women. So now we're doing all of that online, and I'm doing a lot more work in companies, because what's happened is we have all gone through so much stress this year that companies are finally, and law firms, looking at what do we need to do to take care of some of our employees to avoid this kind of burnout, and to really help people focus and create, and have a sense of that it's going to be all right. We're going to get through that.
Right,
That was a long answer. I'm sorry that I went on.
No, it's great. Much better.
All those years.
No, it's awesome, because just to see where you've been, where you've come from and what you've gone through, and coming out to the side. And I love the fact, I don't know what it is about 50. There's something about age 50. I talk to more women who it's taken to about that age to have the realization or the revelation or the full coming around moment, right?
It's fascinating. You're exactly right. And lately, I find that I'm coaching a lot of women in their 30s who have just either just gotten married or just up there in their career, just had a baby. Some of them are already going through a divorce. But I find it such an incredibly I'm just loving working with women at that age
Yeah.
because they can still avoid,
Yes.
those 16 or whatever years of angst, by getting in touch with some of these ways to really rethink how we operate.
We really should teach it in college or school.
Yeah,
I mean, it should start younger, but and I love your thing about the fact, self-care and how narcissistic and how, right, selfish. And and I've said to people, the furthest thing of selfishness, I mean, self-care is absolutely essential. It
yeah,
really, really is. And
yeah.
taking that quiet time, whether it's meditation, whatever it is for you, finding that tool. I love that you
It's a
found this
tool.
tool and that you've created this space for women.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and supporting women fully. So during all this, I mean, I know you've had a bunch of challenges through all of it, right? In the businesses and a divorce and moving as a single mom and 4 kids. Tell me a little bit about what you would say some of your biggest challenges were, from then to now, and how you overcame them.
Well, definitely the time in my life that was itself the biggest challenge was when all of these things happened literally within a 3 year period.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my brother, my marriage ended, I moved across the country, and actually my parents were the victim of Bernie Madoff. So we were really in a completely, I was in a place that I knew no one here. And I actually moved here to be with someone who turned out to be not who he said he was. So that was the end. The end part of that story was I was so excited about starting a new life and having a new partner and really putting the past behind me and being in this new place. And that didn't work out. And I really was forced to evaluate what it takes to be completely alone in the hardest moment, without friends, without family, try to build a business in really just a place I knew nothing about, had no contacts here, hadn't gone to law school here, so I didn't have that credibility. What I learned from that time is that really, the strength that we talk about having as women, no matter what, there is this reservoir of strength. It kind of operates on its own in those moments. Like, I'm not even thinking, like, I'm going to garner my strength and keep going. We just set ourselves up to having to keep going because of the world that we created in terms of the house and getting dinner on the table and paying our taxes. And when there's nobody's, but what I really learned more than anything was that it was time to learn to be open to help. I never really thought about, asking anyone for anything. I just never, it never dawned on me. I knew I was very strong. I knew I could get through it. But emotionally in that time, I was so lonely. And I did learn to reach out a little. And then ultimately, I really, from meditation, learned for the first time, I think the biggest lesson through all of this is learning how to become friends with yourself.
Mm, yeah,
That's
that's a big
been
lesson. That's a really big lesson. Yeah.
huge. I mean, it's really, that's, if I think now of what I want people to learn, like, that's it. Like, how do we really become friends with ourselves so that we can see when we're on the verge of burnout, when we need to reach out and ask for help? All of those come within being a good friend to yourself, just the way you would with another woman.
I think even, yeah, even pulling back, giving yourself that grace to not keep pushing, right?
Uh,
And going and going and going.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
still learning how to say no. I know
yeah.
that that's a big thing. That's a really, really, really challenging thing. There's a great book that was written by two sisters, Emily and Amelia Nagoski, and they talk about unlocking the stress cycle. It's called Burnout, actually. But they quote another woman, a feminist, Catherine Mann, who talks about the human giver syndrome. and what it means to be a human giver and what happens to us as human givers. But that line stayed with me, that term, because we really as women are just human givers. And how do we find ways to, as you said, pull back a little, get what we need? It's all a challenge.
Yeah, it is indeed. I used to be a self-professed no challenged woman.
Hmm.
I would say yes to everybody and everything until I hit a wall, right? And
Yes.
I think just what you're saying here, learning to recognize that and being able to be by yourself, with yourself, and be able to notice, become sensitive to the signs that your
Yeah.
body, your mind, whatever it is, your heart, that you just need to give yourself the grace and have some of that.
Well, from a physiological perspective, we our systems are designed to, when there's a threat like a lion, a real threat,
Right.
to fight, flight, or flee. That was it. But women, we have such ongoing stress sores and thus stress that our body is not designed to manage that. That's not how we're set up. So we really do need to find real ways, not just a hot bath. I mean, we really need to find ways to manage that, to learn how to breathe through, to complete this stress cycle, to
Mm-hmm.
go outside, to connect with people. I mean, really, all of that makes a difference. But it's ultimately about really taking a look at calming the nervous system, because we are so fast paced, moving all the time. And that ability to pause is something that, most of us think, no, we want to keep going. We're so designed for it,
Yeah.
as women. And so that's been a huge challenge for me, is
Yeah.
slowing down. When I first heard that term, like, you need to slow down, I thought, not me. I want to prove what I can do.
Right. I can completely relate.
Yeah.
Totally relate. Yeah, scarily relate. So you
Scary.
talked about, the slowing down, and you mentioned the word the pause, right?
Yes.
So this last year in 2020, many of us, the pandemic pause, right? Things did slow down. We were forced to slow down. And I know you had to make some shifts in your business. You were talking about how you were doing live retreats and all of that, and you've taken it online. So tell me a little bit about your challenges and how you pivoted, and how now that you're seeing that come to fruition and work out
Yeah.
for you in the gathering.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pandemic pause is a bit of a misnomer. I think at the beginning it felt like, we wanted to name it, we wanted to get the benefit of it and sort of say, oh, wow, now we can be at home. I think maybe that's been true. Obviously, in a lot of ways, we're not driving around, we're not traveling around. There is that. But unfortunately, I think for many people, the anxiety, the lack of certainty about jobs, about kids, about our parents, about the future, the benefits that I'm talking about pausing, which is sort of going within and feeling at peace, that has not been my experience working with women. I think, if anything, women are revved up and panicked about how to stay sane when they're now working from home and raising their kids and running their business and cooking and cleaning, and just the overwhelm. I mean, overwhelm is the word that I hear from my clients over and over. That is this feeling. So I did move. I don't do the live retreats anymore right now. I am thinking about doing something online, but what I've done much more of is working with individuals to really get through this time, and then working in groups. And what I have found, that I'm pleasantly surprised by, I did not think that I would be able to feel as deeply connected to my clients and my classes that I teach over Zoom. I just was kind of, no, it's not the same, and I want to hug people, all of which is true as well. But
Mhm.
in a way, meditation and coaching, it's a very intimate relationship being on Zoom, eye to eye, and really, I've I think that it's enabled us to not have to rush to get somewhere, to actually be present for, a class, a moment where there's just the opportunity to settle in and have a meaningful, really meaningful session with someone. And that's been my
Yeah.
experience. And so that I've loved. I do miss, I'm a big cook, so I do a lot of the cooking at my events. I miss all of that, the beauty and the joy of, creating an environment for women to really soak in some special, treats and all of that. And I am looking forward to getting back to that. But I have, it has been relatively seamless for me in terms of moving to online classes and meditation sessions.
Hmm. Awesome. That's great. Awesome. Because you just, I mean, some people really struggled with that. I mean, myself included, right? Not struggled. It made it easy because I was already, doing so much on Zoom and all of that. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
how do we shift and continue moving? So, if there was one thing that you wish you'd known when you started your business and moving forward, that you know now, like, what would you tell your younger self? What would that be?
Um, I would tell my younger self that it's really okay to not strive at every moment.
Mm-hmm.
That there's, um, the wonderful children's book Ferdinand the Bull.
Uh-huh. Right.
Ferdinand was this bull who, instead of being running around fighting the other bulls, he would find this quiet place and sit and smell the flowers. Well, it turns out that in bullfighting, there's actually a term of art called your querencia, which is the place where a bull goes in the bull ring to get quiet, to garner strength, and calm down before they can go out and be ferocious. And so that place of refuge and that metaphor, I just feel is such a great one, because when we can remember that that's slowing down, that pausing doesn't lead to lackadaisical behavior and not effectiveness, but it actually does move us towards a more focused, effective, and powerful presence in the world that I think is very, very helpful for all of us to understand. Because for me, it was always striving for the sake of striving. And if I slowed down, I wouldn't be, I'd get behind.
Right.
And so that's a huge, huge lesson that I've learned.
What a great lesson. I remember the book, and I remember him, but I did not know the story that a bull, lays down to garner
Yeah,
his strength and his energy to be able to
yeah,
go out. I love
yeah,
that. It's awesome.
yeah.
So, if you were going to suggest to somebody one thing to do, to maybe help with, breathing deeply, I'm sure is one. But what would you suggest or recommend for somebody who's really feeling the anxiety and the stress and just can't, uh, yeah, just
Well,
move
one little actual exercise that I'll give everyone, because it is so simple and it is so easy, is breathing,
on?
which I never really knew how to breathe either. But if we breathe in, it's called 16 seconds to calm. And if you breathe in for a count of 4, hold at the top for a count of 4, breathe out through the nose for a count of 4, and then hold at the bottom for a count of 4. If you do that little tiny exercise 3 or 4 times in a row, your nervous system will calm down like that. And it's a great immediate thing to do. Any kind of meditation, stillness, being out in nature, hugging. They have all sorts of studies about, the benefit of a hug, but really just going inside and trusting yourself is the key. And I love, having women come together and really learn this together, that we have all the answers.
Yeah.
We really do.
Yeah. Very true. I love that. 16 seconds to calm.
Yes.
Remember that. And everybody listening, I hope you take, as soon as we finish this, that you take those 16
Take a
seconds. Or
moment.
maybe while we're finishing, you can take it.
Take it.
So if somebody wants to connect with you, reach out to you, where is the best place for them to do that?
My website is www.noraplesent.com, and I'm on Instagram at the Nora Plesent, NoraPlesent. And I've got a room on Clubhouse. I'm going to be offering meditations. I do a free Friday morning flow on my Instagram to get people going for the morning. And as I said, I love meeting women, just, the kinds of women that I think are your audience too. So I would love to connect with people, help them in any way, particularly if they own companies and they really want to find ways to offer their employees a way to kind of keep it together in these tough times.
Right. Collective. I love that. Awesome. So let me ask you a final closing question that I ask all of my guests. And that is, what makes you a yes, I can woman?
What makes me that? I just think that my dad used to always say patience and fortitude, that fortitude that, I was raised with, really was my mantra my whole life, that we can do it. We just have to get up, learn from our mistakes, keep going, allow ourselves to have the mistakes. And, as I said, it used to always be that striving, the yes, I can, yes, I can, yes, I can. And now I would say I'm more of a yes, I can. There's more of a soft part of that, which has been my transformation.
I love that. I love that. The softer side of yes, I can.
Yes.
I love it. Nora, thank you so much for being with us today.
You're
This
so
is
welcome.
awesome. Thank you for the tips and the ideas too, to help all of us in this time of stress and anxiety and ambiguity, right? Come together as one, take one collective deep breath, and understand we will get through this and reach the other side. So thank you, Nora. Appreciate your time.
Love that. Okay. Take care. Great
You
meeting
too.
everyone.
Absolutely.
Bye, Kathy.
Bye-bye. And everybody else have a great day. And we will see you on the next episode of Yes, I Can Living. Thanks so much.
Can't wait. Bye.